Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guests this week are Lisa Forbes and David Thomas, professors at Play. You can find them at professorsatplay.org. They are actually professors at UC Denver and Denver University. We'll be talking with them about how to make education more playful. But if you want to figure out how to make your life more playful, go to playfulhumans.com. You can join a community of other adults rediscovering the power of play, or even take a personality test. Find out what kind of playful personality you have. playfulhumans.com/quiz. Here we go. Let's do it. Don't wait for gang, we like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week this week is brought to you by Passwords. You're at a university or two universities, I should say. Maybe you can help me out with this. I'm looking for somebody to develop a password prompt that it just says close enough. I think that would make everybody's lives a lot easier. And here's the official joke of the week. Why can't you explain puns to kleptomaniacs? Why can't you explain puns to kleptomaniacs?
I know
they always take everything literally.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that one. That's a good one. David got that. Do either of you have a joke?
Why can the string never win the race?
I don't know.
Because it always ties.
Nice.
My son told me that one.
I like it. All right, that gets us started in a good mood. So I guess David, I'll go to you first. Tell me a little bit about Professors at Play and how this got started. What's the mission behind that?
Yeah, you bet. So as my area of academic focus, I study fun. I'm a professor in the Department of Architecture at CU Denver still, and I look mostly at fun buildings, but that's sort of beside the point. I had been giving these talks around the university about how to be more playful and have more fun at work. And one of them I did was for the School of Education, and a professor in the School of Education, Lisa Forbes, got a hold of me and said, "Hey, I would like to talk to you about making teaching more fun." So we met and I said, "Hey, I'm really excited about this fact that you want to make teaching more fun, but I don't do that. I do other kinds of fun." And so essentially, we decided to join forces and figure out what was going on in higher ed. Why wasn't teaching fun? And so the partnership started there. Professors at Play really, I'll let Lisa tell that story because it was sort of an accidental organization.
Yeah, so we had been talking for a little bit and we found a couple other people interested in play and learning, but we kind of felt like we were the only ones that were doing this. Come to find out, we're not the only ones. We started a listserv and just invited faculty that we knew to keep the conversation going who are interested in play. And then I wrote a couple articles for a journal called Faculty Focus. And I mentioned our listserv, and we have almost 800 members now. So we started it in 2020 and it's just kind of exploded. So there are people that are doing it, that are interested in it. So we're really excited. We're hoping that it's this movement that makes higher education more fun, because I don't think learning should be a drag, and it is in a lot of ways. So
yeah, for sure. I think it can be, and we can talk more about why that is, but I'm in the group. And I've been able to participate in some projects with you. So I think everybody should go check it out, professorsatplay.org, especially if you're any kind of teacher. I don't teach in a university setting, even though I happen to today. That's why I got the jacket on. I'm heading over to the biggest community college here in Kansas City to give a talk this afternoon on play. And I feel like, especially in the pandemic, everybody needs this, but academia especially has kind of been in I think a rut for a while, but I haven't been that close to it recently. I do kind of adult education outside of that. And even there, I think people get focused on results and test scores and measuring and what success looks like. And they forget that learning happens best when people enjoy it along the way. So I guess, Lisa, tell me a little bit about why you think academia maybe struggles, or what the challenges are there to make it more fun and interesting.
Well, I think there's a lot of issues within higher education. Before I got into this play stuff, I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to last, because this does not fit with who I am, because it's very rigid and stuffy and overly serious, I think, to the point that it's not useful. And I think higher education, like you said, is results driven and test scores and assessing, measuring. We pride ourselves on, air quotes, rigor, which I think is kind of funny that people think you can't be rigorous with being playful. You can. So I don't know. I think sometimes we get stuck on those things. And then the way that we teach people actually doesn't get the results that we want. Like, we want students to be critical thinkers. We want them to be innovative, creative, make change in the world. But we sit and lecture at them for hours on end, make them take notes, memorize facts, take tests, forget the facts, create identical projects to everybody else. Like, it's just, what are we doing? So I think a playful pedagogy actually helps us break out of that a little bit and teach more effectively. So I don't know if I captured all the problems in higher ed, but that's kind of my first.
We'll give David a swing at it too, but I just wanted to add on there, what I think is so interesting is that we don't need people to memorize facts anymore, right? We can all Google that stuff. So what we need in humanity and what we need to teach young adults is how to learn and how to play and how to be creative and innovative, like you mentioned, because those are the skills that are going to be valuable in the future, not some sort of, standardized test answer, because none of us are doing that kind of work anymore. What do you think, David?
Well, I think, part of higher ed is that we have in some sense confused tradition with effectiveness. And like one of my favorite things, Lisa and I like to include this in our slides sometimes. Go right now to the Wikipedia and look up the article on lecture. And there is a picture from the University of Bologna in the 1400s. And I would tell you, you would actually know what to do if you were a student in that environment. There's a dude on a platform with a book talking to a bunch of students that are sitting in rows. Some of them are sleeping, some of them are chit-chatting, some of them are paying attention. And I look at that and I think, wow, it feels good to be a part of that tradition. And the other part of me goes, we really need to rethink what we're doing. And I think that's what the Professors at Play Challenge has really been. And we have discovered there are so many professors that feel stuck. There are so many, people in our environment that want something to be different. And as soon as we say play, they light up, they get it. We don't really have to tell them how to do it. And all of a sudden, this has been this transformative intervention in our traditions that I believe really, they lift them up, right? We're not here to destroy higher ed. We're here to try to make it lively again, to bring excitement back to education. And so I think that's just it. I think we've confused tradition with effectiveness.
I love also that you teach architecture, because I found that what's really interesting to me, and I even noticed this when I was in college 20 years ago, is that some areas have kind of already figured this out. Like, it doesn't make sense to have really rigorous, like multiple choice questions in the theater department or something, right? You're like, okay, well, maybe we have a music theory class or something that does that, but most of them are going to be interactive and using exercises and experiential learning. And I had some great classes in the communications departments where for radio or television or newspaper writing and PR, where you're doing really cool projects and you're learning as you play, and maybe you even have something to show for it. I won a couple of awards, or I had a demo reel for radio when I was done, and it felt good taking that class. And then other classes, whether it's math or economics, or not throw anybody under the bus, but some of them, it's just like, it's all about the right answers, and it's not about how you get there at all. And I think that's interesting. So can you tell me maybe some of the examples you've heard now that you've collected best practices from 800 people where it fit that's maybe not natural or logical?
Well, I think it is natural and logical. And again, I'd like to toss this one to Lisa, because she through her research, invented this thing called the pyramid of play. I think it structures really well where the opportunities are. I'd be happy to give you examples across that spectrum. Do you want to talk about the pyramid of play, Lisa?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's easy to get people's buy-in about playful pedagogy, because they're like, this is more exciting than, what I've been doing. But then the next question is, well, what does that look like? How does this work? So if you can imagine a pyramid with 4 levels on it, the bottom level we say is playfulness. And so just as a faculty member, you're being playful, you're being, a playful human. And everything else depends on that, your ability to be playful, to be genuine, to be congruent, that kind of thing. And so that can be anything from dressing up. One of our submissions, a woman dresses up based on the content each time. Another person on Zoom backgrounds had a theme of the week and would kind of dress up in the Zoom screen. So just like being playful, not taking ourselves too seriously. And then there's connection formers, which are basically icebreakers. And that's like anything that is fun and joyful and playful. And most of the time it's not connected to the content of the course. And a lot of faculty don't do that because it feels like a waste of time. It's not connected to the objectives I need to reach. But through some of my research, I found that is actually one of the best catalysts to create this powerful process of play and learning. And then I'll let David talk about the last 2 levels, which are play to teach content. And then the top level is whole course design. So if you want to share that, David.
Yeah, you bet. So play to teach content is really where, educators want to go. They want like, games that allow people to help them enliven what they're doing. And I'll give you an example because you asked about architecture. I teach the architecture of fun. I'm trying to get students to think more playfully about architecture, which is hard. People really want architecture to be serious. And so I teach them all these playful principles. And then I found out that it's very difficult for them to get engaged in the playfulness of design. So I said, hang on, let's not design buildings. This assignment is, I want you to make the hamburger more fun. They went nuts, right? They were free to play. Now, from an educator standpoint, we're hitting all the theory, the application, the demonstration. So that would be an example of a playful activity. And we got tons of great activities from a wide range of disciplines. A lot of times you'll see it show up, like you said, like in role play and active learning, but we always want to push it further. Finally, whole course activities. Wow, we started to discover this is the great frontier, and we have so many good examples of this. One of my favorite ones is only because I found out that my boss, who's a vice provost and an analytic chemist, decided he was going to teach a freshman seminar based on pirates. So the whole thing was really about science and science education, but it was really about how to build cannons and why pirates wear eye patches and how to build boats. And the capstone project of this put Dr. Miller in a cardboard boat built of cardboard and duct tape, dressed as a pirate, paddling across the pool at the university. And I'm like, if that's not whole course play design, I don't know what is.
That's awesome. That's a great example. And do you know why pirates wear eye patches now?
Apparently what people say is probably not true.
So I've heard that it's for light, that if you keep one eye on the dark, you can go down under the ship, switch your eye patch, and you can see in the dark instantly. And then when you're up, so you can keep one eye focused for night vision under deck. But
yeah, I talked to him about that. He actually thinks that that's not true. He thinks that pirates wear eye patches because they drew Long John Silver with an eye patch in Treasure Island, and so that just became an idiom.
Probably that, or I imagine there's a lot of shrapnel and people losing eyes too. That it was.
See, this conversation's an illustration of just bringing up a playful topic. I mean, what we're doing is we're doing inquiry, we're doing evidence, we're doing critical thinking, all the things that Lisa mentioned that we're trying to bring into higher ed. Like if most facts just go, whatever, that's just true. But we're going to argue about pirates because that feels safe. It feels safe to argue about quote unquote trivial stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great example where I learned that was Mythbusters. Mythbusters are playing with science and ideas and having as much fun as possible with those ideas, and you learn a ton along the way. And I love your idea about the hamburger too, because sometimes like you said, people don't draw the conclusions naturally, but there's structure to a hamburger. There's a reason why there's layers to this, and why you put one ingredient on top of the other and stuff. And so you can teach a lot about architecture in the architecture of a sandwich or a Lego building or something. And you don't have to actually take it serious and do direct learning. I think those metaphorical ones are so much more fun.
That's absolutely true. And I think you should hear some examples from Lisa, because she teaches in a very serious environment, mental health counseling, but still finds a way to interject play.
Yeah. One of the ones I just created was in counseling, we do a lot of role plays and case studies. And so a typical assignment is like, give them a case study of a person, a client, and here's their problems. And, through your theoretical lens, how would you treat this person? What direction would you go? So that's kind of boring. Students expect that every class. So I came up with the idea of using a children's book called Giraffes Can't Dance. It's one I read to my kids. And I read that to my students who are graduate students. And then after that, I give them a handout of the client profile, which is Gerald the giraffe. And it's got the picture of the giraffe from the children's book. And I basically took real facts of giraffes and turned it into why a giraffe would go to counseling to get help. So it's like self-esteem because he's awkward and has long legs and can't bend over to drink water, and all the animals make fun of him. So it's just a more playful way to have them think critically through their theoretical lens to apply that to a case. And so there's novelty in that. And just like David's hamburger example, it's not real. Nobody's counseled a giraffe before, as far as I know. And so there's some pressure that's taken off of them to get it right, because there's no right answer. So they get to play and be free and think more creatively than they would if it was a serious case study.
I love that idea that there's no right answer, because I think in some of the research that I've done, that's what the biggest impact of play and learning is. If you're stressed, if you're under attack and your adrenaline's pumping and your body locks down and it gets rigid, your body gets rigid, you tense up, your brain gets rigid, and it focuses on what's the one way that I can survive this situation right now. And so much of the time, that's what school and stress test looks like, right? Stress, anxiety, and everything else is, it freaks your brain out, and then you're only looking for that right answer. But in play, if there's a lot of right answers, or if there's no right answer, that makes it a lot more interesting, and it loosens you up and allows you to think creatively and fire better chemicals in your body. So I wanted to ask you, Lisa, I'm sure you had to have looked into like play for mental health. And I feel like we're in a play deprived society, especially in the pandemic and stuff. Do you have any thoughts on that, and how maybe even just in the treatment of your subject, not in the classroom, that play is important?
Yeah, I mean, if you read Stuart Brown's book on play, it's all about that. It's all about play is vital to well-being. It's a human need. It's not just for fun, and it's not just frivolous. It can be, but it is absolutely essential to well-being and mental health. So yeah, I mean, I think the connection is pretty clear there. But what you were saying earlier about like the brain stuff is, even in learning, there are certain neurotransmitters that are vital to learning. And those neurotransmitters are created more so through play than just sitting and listening to a lecture. And so I think neurotransmitters are helpful for learning. Certain neurotransmitters are helpful for mental health, like dopamine, like that's really important. So yeah, I think play is just this thing that gets us laughing. It gets us connected to people. It gets us, our brain states in a better place where we're just thriving more so. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a huge thing. And in the mental health world, what we talk about is self-care. And I think sometimes that becomes like a cliche thing where we talk to our students about, make sure you're doing your self-care because this is a tough program, and you're sitting with clients all day and that's emotionally heavy. But then they're like, yeah, self-care. So really what I think it is play. I mean, self-care can be a lot of different things, but I think it's more important that we're playing, because that to me is like another level of care for yourself, basically.
Yeah, I agree. What I think is interesting, and for good reason, there's a lot of emphasis on like mindfulness and meditation. And I call that pausing. Taking a break and pausing is great. But for me, you got to also get those good chemicals firing. You have to go play, and you have to go all the way to positive. You can't just go from neutral to negative and then negative, or negative and neutral back and forth. Like, you got to swing over to the positive side and play a little bit too. David, you want to take a swing at this one?
Well, I was just going to tie it back to tradition, because I think one of the dilemmas of higher ed, and by the way, a lot of organizations, is who runs higher ed. It was the people that survived the undergraduate, graduate education, right? That they were able to like deal with the threat and all the fear, and they've soldiered through it. And so we kind of perpetuate these negative emotions, right? And I think this is true in organizations anywhere. It's like the people that succeeded, if they succeeded by self-managing all this negative stuff, then they just think that's the way to do it. We're trying to turn the corner. We truly believe in higher education. People come to higher education to change their life, right? They come to become somebody else, to get into a new career, advance where they are. And so as teachers, we feel like, hey, here's our chance to teach people they can play themselves out of some of these things, that play has a place. And our hope is not just to create a cadre of playful educators. It's to like be a gateway to more playful human beings. So we're with you, playful humans. Let's go.
Well, I love that. And I think even in the work environment that I work a lot in, the same thing is true, that bosses or teachers think we have to challenge these young professionals or these young students, and life's not easy, and we need to stress test them. And my thing is like, yeah, life's stressful. They're going to figure out how to overcome challenges. Like, I don't think we need to throw more rocks at them while they're mowing. Like, we can make their job easier. We can teach them how to play and be more creative and resilient to overcome those challenges. But we don't need to intentionally make their life more difficult to see if they can overcome a hurdle. I think that's such a weird concept to me, and we all need to be more playful. So we record these quite a bit in advance. So I'm guessing that your book will either be out or be close to being out by the time this airs. Do you want to talk about that project a little bit?
Well, let's just say, unless this is going to come out way in the future, academic publishing slow. So,
well, that's true.
But yeah, so the Professors at Play playbook, where it's going to be out late spring, early summer. Sometimes we're in the midst of finishing that. It's a collection of play techniques from right now about 50 or 60 contributors from all across the world and across the play pyramid. And the reason we decided to put the book together is what we realized is that instinctually people understand play benefits. Instinctually, they are attracted to it. But in the structure of higher ed, sometimes they just needed some models to look at. So we kept getting asked, like, I want to be more playful. Give me some techniques, which is sad. You think about like on a playground, some kid coming up to you and say, I don't know how to play. Tell me how to play. You'd be like, just go play. But as adults, we almost kind of need that coaching. So the playbook is really doing a couple of things. One is it's a little bit of an ethnography of what's going on globally in higher ed play. But secondarily, it's really it's its own system of monkey bars for professors to look at and go like, wow, that's like something I want to do, or, oh, wow, I didn't realize that in that discipline you could pull that off. And so we're hoping for it to be a stair step towards igniting even more play.
That's cool. Lisa, your thoughts?
I think he said it well. I'm hoping that some of these techniques might not fit for all disciplines, but I'm hoping that people read this and it sparks some thought. It sparks some creativity and like, oh, well, that won't work, but that makes me think about this other thing, and maybe I can try that. Because I think we get so stuck in our rigid way of doing things in higher education, and sometimes it feels like a box and it's hard to think outside of that box. And so this book is like, hey, let's take you outside this box and think of some other ways to do it. So
I love what you said about frameworks too. And I submitted one for the book, so hopefully it makes the cut. But if it doesn't, that's all right either. It's all for fun. But what I love about frameworks is you can apply them to different things. So if you think about how Jeopardy works or Wheel of Fortune or Family Feud, you can apply those to any subject in school and you can create a game out of those questions. And so when you see what other people are doing, even if it doesn't directly fit, you can go, oh, I can use that for this class, or I can use that for that one for this subject. And it does spark your creativity and thinking. And I always love books and examples of people doing cool things, because then it'll trigger an idea in my mind of how to do that. I love that. And then I think the one thing we didn't hit, so last question, and then we'll wrap up with some fun, is we didn't define play. I think, Lisa, you're working on that part, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big question. Yeah. So I'm doing a Delphi study right now. I have about 15, 20 experts, air quotes experts, because who knows what an expert is, experts on play. And it's three rounds of inquiry, basically asking these people, what is play? What does it look like? How do we define it? How do we talk about it? And the biggest conclusion so far is experts do not agree on what play is. I really do think the definition of play is dependent on who's giving it and in what context. So, I mean, I think there's innate characteristics of play, like it's for fun, it's joyful, it's chosen, you choose it yourself. There's some characteristics that make it play, but then we can harness that for a purpose. So in education, we harness play to learn, to engage students, in any discipline, you can harness it in different ways. So I'm talking a long way around this because the experts are like, we can't define play.
Well, we're only 2 rounds in too, but the first 2 rounds really made me think about it a lot. And the biggest one I got was one of your questions about the movement between chaos and order. And I think that's really interesting to me because we've kind of found that like all mammals on the planet speak ball. We all speak ball. If there's a bouncing ball and we're watching the chaos of this and we can somehow control it and create some order, like a soccer game or a basketball game or anything with the ball, you're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. It does encourage play. So it doesn't always have to be with the ball, or it doesn't always have to involve chaos, but there is some sort of uncertainty to it that makes it magical. And I think that for me, that's why play is a lot like love. It's hard to define because it's a feeling or a state there, but it also is what makes it really interesting and powerful as a human experience. Dave, any final thoughts?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, first of all, I would punt on it by saying, well, play is the pursuit of fun, and then that just pushes it over to what fun is. But I think the thing is play is freedom, play is looseness, play is joy, play is delight. I mean, we know what it is, and there's also such things as dark play or harmful play. I mean, there's pranks that can be, the use of play to hurt people. So I think sometimes we have to be very careful that that like play still needs to be framed as a social good and not as something that people will take advantage of. But realistically, the world needs more play, and so we're going to keep pushing for it. The last thing I would say is I hope you got your email because your submission's in the playbook. So,
Yeah, I did. I just didn't want to assume, things change, but I love it. I'm looking forward to it. So last question for both of you. What's play for you? What do you do for fun? Or is there anything on your fun bucket list that's still a playful goal for you? David?
Yeah, so I have this bad habit of turning my hobbies into projects. So truly Professors at Play is one way that I play. I mean, it's just, we work hard on this, but it's just so much fun. And just when it seems like it's too much work, people come up with ideas or techniques, or you discover stuff. And so it's endlessly playful to me. I think the one place I could point you that I'm like obsessed with, I love magic. To me, there's so much play and magic, and learning about it and doing it and watching it. So I'm kind of obsessed with that. So ta-da, I see a trick.
At least I was trying to find if I had a trick around.
And of course, I also love fun buildings. I have an inventory of playful architecture. I will go way out of my way to see where, the birthplace of Kool-Aid was. And so,
That's amazing. Lisa, what about you?
I kind of align with David in the project side of things. Professors at Play is playful for me. Even my research on Play is fun for me. I enjoy it. I'm a clinical track faculty, and so I don't really have to do research. So for me, it's chosen as a project that I like to do. So that's fun. I am an athlete, and so sports are fun to me. I know that's not other people's joy in terms of play, but I love competitive sports, and I get a little too competitive sometimes. But I play soccer by myself, and then I play sports with my kids, and I don't let them win. So that's playful for me.
I love it. Those are great examples and great examples of why everybody's different. So if you're listening and you want to figure out your playful personality, go to playfulhumans.com/quiz. You might be an athlete like Lisa, or you might be a problem solver, or a puzzle maker, or interested in exploring and things. So there's all kinds of cool options there. But are you two ready to play a game?
Sure.
Always.
All right, we're spinning our wheel of games. There's 10 games that it can land on, and you got Survey Says. Survey Says is pretty easy. You've probably seen it before. We surveyed 100 people. The top answers on the board. If you get one of the top ones, you win the question. If you get 2 out of 3, you win the game. Name something you would associate with London.
Okay, so we just named
Red telephone booth.
Oh, it is not in the top 5. And
What?
strike one.
Oh, no.
David.
Big Ben.
Big Ben is the number 1 answer. There you go. Nicely done. I guess I should tell the listeners what the other ones were in case they had different guesses. The London Bridge, the Queen, Fog, and England.
Fog.
Okay. I haven't been to England that much, but I hear it's a thing. Okay. Name something people do in their cars while they're stopped at a red light.
Check their phone.
Phone is the number 2 answer. David.
Check their makeup.
Oh, makeup is the number 7 answer, but also on the board there. We've got adjust the radio, sing, look in the mirror, or look around and eat. All good answers.
I do all
we got that one. We're 2 for 2. So you've already won. The last one is just a fun one. It was taken in 2019. So keep that in mind. But name a celebrity who's gone postal at least once.
Britney Spears.
Number 1 answer.
Oh, really?
David, you got it?
I don't know. Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, good answer, but not on there. Mel Gibson, Tom Cruise, Russell Crowe, and Alec Baldwin all made
So I
that.
feel like I need to make a case for me winning because I got number 1 and number 2, and he got number 2 and number 7.
Congratulations, Ben. You are our Survey Says winner. On this one, you win a free 30 seconds to use however you choose here. You can have an ask or a give for the audience, or you can sing us a song, whatever you feel like. 30 seconds is yours. Lisa?
I feel like my choice for my 30 seconds is to pass it to David.
Great. So my ask is that everybody, if you're academic or teach, go to Professors at Play and sign up for our list. It's free. It's awesome. Come play with us. If you're not a professor, here's what I want you to do. I want you today, go out and spend $5 or $10 and buy something that looks like fun to you. Just go waste $5 or $10, buy a game, buy some toys, buy a piece of candy, go play.
I love it. Always great advice. That's David Thomas and Lisa Forbes, Professors at Play. Find them at professorsatplay.org. Find Playful Humans at playfulhumans.com. Again, you can take that quiz. You can join the community of other adults rediscovering the power of play there, get some ideas, and also subscribe to the podcast and stuff. I would say also, if you know a professor, send them the link to David and Lisa's project. If you know another adult that's just stressed out and having a little bit of struggles in the pandemic, send them an episode or the Playful Humans website and go play.
Wait for tomorrow. Wait for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine and go out and play.
Bye, everybody.